Hello out there, YouTube. This is Ed Pollock from Pollock's World of Entertainment. Thanks for tuning in. My topic is actually I'm going to be discussing the adjusted for inflation comparisons of movies, and that is something that I consider to be misleading. And the reason I say this is that there are a lot of differences between today and the past. Even if you go back 10 years ago, when you had Avatar that came out, and you also had, and now 10 years later, you have Avengers Endgame that is coming out that is challenging Avatar for the all-time highest grossing title. Um, and of course, when you adjust it for inflation, it basically appears that Avatar is far and away above Avengers Endgame, as is Titanic, as is actually quite a few other movies. And this is something that is definitely misleading. For one, it is true that now there are far more movie theaters in China when there were when Avatar came out. There also would most, I mean, from what I have seen, are going to be fewer movie theaters in the United States. I couldn't tell you when the last time was that a new movie theater was actually built, but I know several that have closed since since 2009 when Avatar came out. Um, there are fewer movie theaters, and there is far greater competition among media. Now movies get competition from not just TV, but they get it from YouTube, they get it from Instagram, they get it from social media, they get it from Netflix. There are an inordinate number of possible ways of getting media. There are it's just a whole different world now than it was even 10 years ago. Let alone if you go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, on and on. It's just a different world. And that it's not something you can really compare. You can't compare how a movie is doing now in comparison to how it did 30 or 40 years ago, or or more, or even 10 years ago, because of how many differences there are. Differences in technology, differences in a variety of what's actually available. And so, again, when you talk about adjusted for inflation, you're taking a movie and you're saying what that movie would do selling the same number of tickets today. And that's a big assumption that same movie is going to sell the same number of tickets today as it did when it first came out. Um, and that it's very misleading. It is not. It's difficult to compare. Just like if in sports, when you compare different eras, if you compare, for example, in the NFL, the Steelers of the 70s versus the 49ers of the 80s versus the Cowboys of the 90s versus the Patriots, the Steelers from the 2000s. Um, and the, it's comparing them. You're talking about different rules. You're talking about different technology that was available, different training ways of training. Um, it's just a whole different time, and it's very difficult to compare across eras. And you could make the same the same argument for all the other professional sports as well. Um, it just is. It's tough to compare across different eras because so many things change. Um, and so, whenever I hear adjusted for inflation, uh, that's just a misleading number. It is. I mean, Gone with the Wind has incredible numbers adjusted for inflation because it's so old. But when it came out, you'd virtually have a movie theater on almost every corner. There were movie theaters in the United States all over the place. There were many, many, many movie theaters. You had drive-ins. You had and again, it was just a much different time. It really had no, and it was out. It had really no competition. Um, so from that standpoint, it is. It's just not a good. It's not a good comparison. It's not a fair comparison. It's misleading because it looks like when you do it that all the newer movies have with the higher prices have all the advantages, and you're giving all the advantages to the older movies, but you're not when you're adjusting for inflation, you're not taking into account all the other factors that are involved, all of the competition, all of the other types of media that are available. Um, it's just it doesn't take those things into account, and those things they should be because they will impact how a movie does at the box office, and that whether no matter what, and no matter how good the movie is, no matter how well it is marketed, all of these things do have an impact. Obviously, people are going to be willing to wait until a movie comes out on Blu-ray or DVD, or they may catch it another way. But there's just a lot of different alternatives, a lot of different options. So, wanted to get into that a bit. That's my video. And otherwise, yeah, please like and subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel and please like the video. If you, again, thanks very much for tuning in, and thanks again for tuning into my channel, Pollock's World of Entertainment. And everybody have a nice night.